Okay, yeah.
Okay. So welcome, Marco. We've got some stuff to discuss, which will be our session. We can maybe do this once a week, once every second week, because you're a pretty informative guy, and there's lots happening on this end in terms of, I mentioned to you this orbology group that we have, which is pretty active. I don't know if you saw the orb storm that we did. It's called the orb storm. We went for an hour, and everybody that was on, we just said, okay, just post your photos one after as fast as you can. And so you had like, I don't know how many people, there was maybe 8 or 9 people all posting. These photos are on this list, and it's just like, I bet you it was probably 3,000 to 5,000 photos, orb photos.
Wow.
Some people got some really amazing stuff, and then these guys came up with this this method for it almost makes a photo look like it's alive, like it's almost like little not cells, microbes. It just sort of breaks it into sort of little microbes, and then the whole screen, it sort of pops out. And they said it's some sort of app that you can get on the internet. And when I saw this, I said, man, you guys better patent this thing for UFO photos, because I mean, it was incredible. I just was like, whoa. So I gave them the photos from the Heflin photos. You remember from 1950, the one that was flying by the farmhouse there? And then they put that one on there. It's just like, holy cow. It's just like, wow. It's some sort of, I guess you can analyze it, and I don't know where it's going to go with it, but it's pretty interesting to look at an ordinary photo and with this, and all they're using is almost like, you know, how you get a negative and you flip it to the positive side, where it's white on black and stuff like that. So it's that sort of thing where they were using this app, and the UFO, the orb photos, just, they're completely different photos. It's like, wow, especially when you can barely see it, something coming across the screen. It sort of just pops it right out of the screen. So anyway.
There's a chap, I think you have interviewed him. It's an African-American, Tyrell, his name is, I think. And I've watched a couple of interviews, and he has some really interesting orbs photos as well.
Oh, Tyrell, oh shoot. Yeah, he's in the group. Yeah, he's one of these guys that can sort of pick up everybody's camera. Like people say, oh, it won't work, you know, you're used to your camera and all sort of stuff, and then he'll take their camera and and it's the same thing, you know. It's like, doesn't matter. Stokes, isn't it? Or maybe it's a different guy. Anyway, we'll get you in the group, and if you see that that he's not on the list, you can look at the list. If he's not on there, maybe put him in there as well. He can sort of add to, because a lot of people are discussing, and a lot of people just have thousands of orb photographs, and they don't know what they mean. So they're coming onto this group, and it's there's not much negative stuff in the group, well, almost none. And so people are very open about it, and they're posting their photos, and everybody's out trying to get more photos, and it's actually pretty interesting. So, but we're going to talk about your sort of experiences a little bit. we're going to share screen here. So let me share screen. Hopefully I can get this all done here. Share screen. I don't need sound. Well, I'll put it just in case. Never know. Share sound. Optimize for video. Share. Okay. Here we go. Here's one photo. Let's go back.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe size. I'm not sure if the size. I think I sent it was really big. So this is. Let
me go to the first ones here. Let's go back. Let's start. Yeah, let's start with this one here.
Cool. So this one, I mentioned before that Reiki was one of the big propellers or the catapults that made me, when I start doing Reiki and doing Reiki on people, that a lot of this connection started. So these guys there, I was doing a Reiki session in a place in my city, and then it's a common room, so a lot of people doing a lot of tables, and a lot of people doing their own modalities. And then all of a sudden I see these 3 guys on the other end of the table. So lying down there, you have the person, kind of the person lying down. And then there were those 3 little fellas. They're quite tall. They were, not quite tall, maybe 1.6, 1.7, 170 centimeters. They were 5'11", 5'10", and they were on the other end of the table. So I was on the client's head. This is my view from my end, and they were further down. Obviously, the body went further down, and it was these mantis. They come quite a lot on the Reiki, and I realized that the Reiki, I think it reaches an energy vibration that allows for all these multidimensional beings to come in as well if they want.
Okay.
I had so then basically I was looking down at the person, focused on the person, and then this is all they were not there physically, but I could perceive them, I could see them with, you know, this what people call the third eye thing. And it was quite interesting. Very I see them and then all of a sudden they move out. I think it feels like they're just showing themselves and say we're here as well. And these guys are quite keen on the Reiki energy. So are the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch love it. They just come through all the time.
Wow. So how many times would this happen with Reiki, and how often do you do Reiki?
I do Reiki. Well, I do once a week.
Okay.
Which is today here for me, Monday.
Yeah.
And then and I do sometimes organize these community healing events where instead of being just me one-to-one, it's a couple of us, maybe 4 or 5 of this group that I'm part of, and then people come through and we work on our own tables. And then I think I would assume that with more people around, and now the energy gets amplified, so more come through. So yeah, I do it quite regularly. So at least once. They don't come all the time. Like last week I did, but they didn't. But I could feel that there was, I think, was a Sasquatch energy because they're very happy, very very joyful, and then there's this energy of joy because I had restarted the sessions. I think they was observing on the Reiki. Interesting thing as well that recently. I think we talked about it we fine-tune ourselves as we do the practice more and more, whatever the practice is, whatever the modality is, since you've written a book about it. So whatever the modality it is that gets you there. And I've been having some cat people coming through, which is quite interesting.
Wow. Oh, I'll have to put you in contact with some of the cat people. There's actually a cat group that I helped start up here. It's
and then I am on this group healing that I had. I was on a table, and then all of a sudden I see them coming. These 3 cats coming through the right-hand side here. One was black. One I could see one clearly was black. The other one was kind of orangish, and the other one is just the feeling that it was there. And they seem to be wearing this sort of armor kind of clothes. You know, usually you see people drawing them with Star Trek kind of shirts.
Yeah.
But I had the impression that they were wearing something which was a bit more robust, looked like plated armor kind of thing.
Wow.
So they came through, and I was really wow. I had kind of felt the energy once or twice before, similar energy. So they came through, and they just walked to the side of the table. And then I believe they stayed there. I couldn't see them anymore. And it's very fleeting, maybe 2-3 seconds. So they came through. I saw them going to my right on the table. And then I wasn't able to see them anymore. Also because I was focusing on what I was doing. And just to do a segue on this cat thing, I've been doing some toning in the morning with a guy that I had reached out to called Tom Gilligan. He's in the US, and he does toning, and he does with the word Yahweh. He has been on Todd Medina's show, something called Soulology. He's a quite clever guy. He's a scientist, so on and so forth. But anyway, I've been doing this toning, and then I've had the cats coming back, you know. Wow. And now telepathically they say, you know, we had some telepathic exchanges, and it's interesting that because straight away you feel the change in the energy. It's different from when these guys come in. Actually, when the mantis come in, there's nothing really different. They are very, very precise. There's not much, filling in the gaps with idle conversation. They are very, I don't know, let's say German. They come and they have something to do, and there's no humor whatsoever. A lot of people say they feel these guys, the mantis, as being quite kind and benevolent. I've never felt anything bad, but no sort of emotional connection either. It's just very matter of fact. So that was that one there. They came in, we did something. I assume they stayed, but I didn't see them after.
So they're into medical stuff, correct? Aren't the mantids?
Yes, I think so. And remember I mentioned to you, I think on the other interview, that a Scooby-Doo dream that I went through, and then I went through this cupboard in this little house, and then I walked through into the ship.
Yeah.
And then they were doing the surgery on this on this gray
Great.
on a table, and then it was a medical procedure. So I assume they're a lot into medical procedures.
And their eyes are actually that big? That's
Yes.
wow.
Yes, that big. And the head is formatted that way as well. The eyes are the most impressive thing always.
And do you actually deal with one, you do with the Sasquatch, but is there any one particular alien that gives you instructions or directs you or anything like that?
I think most of the time is the Sasquatch most of the time. Sometimes I feel different. I kind of learned to recognize their vibrations, so I know when they come through, because I said previously, I think that initially when we started, they would identify themselves. They would say Sasquatch, so the kind of hello, here we are. But as you get more used to vibrating in alignment, I think I can recognize emotionally maybe, or the type of energy that comes through. But every so often different things, something like this cat people who came through, it's quite the energy is quite cattish. I don't know, it's quite like sleek and kind of, if you think of an elegant cat. So it seems to me very calm. So far we're still on the acquaintance, getting acquainted to one another. I asked them when I'm going to see you, are we going to take this one step further? And they said, as always, well, we're getting there. We're just getting it. We've noticed you. We have been observing you for a while.
Wow.
Because I have also been putting intention out there that I wanted to contact them specifically. And then I think it has to do with this morning thing this meditation in the morning that I've been doing.
Wow. So you got three different types of beings that you would like, groups, and they all have different vibration. That's what you can sense them. Like you would the idea you would be sense them before you would actually see them. You would sort of pick up that vibration is there, that feeling.
If it's kind of telepathic communication, if it's in a context like this, it's straight away. I see them first.
I see.
But
okay.
Yeah, when the Sasquatch comes through the Reiki as well, I can see them because I know how they vibrate. I recognize straight away, and they're all very cheery, all very happy. These guys are very emotionless. There's not much sharing. With the cats, so far they have a maybe, let's say, vibrational pattern or frequency that is quite distinct from anybody else.
And the grays are another class as well. I mean, do you see them as robotic like people describe, or you just saw the one on the table, correct?
Yeah, I just saw that one on table. That one was being operated on, so I think he was out completely. I've never had many, just in dreams, which are kind of, but not really. They don't hang around. I don't see them quite often. I had a couple of dreams where they showed up, but not really. I'm not sure, man. What do you think? Do you think they choose us according to what our soul contracts are? I think.
Yeah, it'd be soul contract, but there'd also be the other thing that they're watching you. It may be like when you're doing Reiki, you light up like a light bulb, and they say, "Hey, what's going on over here?" And they get attracted. The same as the idea that we detonated the atomic bomb in World War II, and suddenly everybody shows up here. It's sort of like everything is one thing, so they can pick up this vibration, and they're trying to maybe help out the people who are trying to get into the field and trying to do stuff, and because they're not going to appear to people who aren't lighting up, because what's the point? But you're actually in this thing, and so it's like, oh, what's this? It's kind of interesting what's going on over here.
I think that's what it is. I call it pinging. When your notifications go on your mobile, I think they have this etheric mobile, which is the field, right?
Yeah.
And then we light up, and then they come and approach and see what's going on.
Yeah, interesting. Plus there would be some soul contract idea there as well. Okay, so this I was reading. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was a dream. Now the Reiki one I was not sleeping. It wasn't actually in a Reiki session.
Yeah,
I was awoke. So this one was as I mentioned to you before, these are the last dreams. Or the projection, the last thing that happens before I wake up. So it's very weird. I find myself on this line. I was lining up to get on this little orange bus there, and the orange bus was a literal school bus. Like you guys have up there in Canada and the US, but it was orange. And then we lined up, and I remember everything was very slow, but extremely slow. My thinking, as if I had been drugged. And we were at the beach, and we were lining up, and you see these little guys, the mentees are there, and they were wearing these turquoise blue caps, and they were wearing these turquoise blue shirts, kind of thing, as if they were, we were in a school. It felt like we were going on a tour, a field trip with the school, and we were the students, kind of thing, the analogy. So we were on this line, and there was someone next to me. And I realized something was going on. And then I was forced to understand what's going on. And I remember looking, and the sea was turquoise blue, so it reminded me something like the Mediterranean Sea or the Asian Sea, you know, around Greece, that kind of turquoise. And then there I am. So we start see on the left of the picture, we're right in front of the bus, and we're all lining up to enter the school bus. And I found it quite strange. They were jumping on the school bus, but I was an adult already, so I had not been in school for a long time. And then there were these guys. You see the little guy with the little thing on his hand, on the left of the. He was taking notes, so he had like a pad, an iPad, on his, some sort of tablet, and he was taking notes of who was coming through. Everything was very slow, as I had been drugged, and then I realized they were controlling. They were controlling the energy big time. But I pushed, and I said, I pushed to focus on them, and then I said, where are we going? And then I think they realized I had perception of what was going on. They lost control of me. And I very sluggishly, I said, where are we going? Slow motion, telepathically. And then this little guy here, who is in the middle row, he said, this was outside still, he said, something on the lines of, it doesn't matter, you will know when you get there. But I had a distinct impression that he was kind of interested, that I managed to kind of to be able to contact him. So we filed onto the bus, dragging ourselves slowly, and I was trying not to go in, but there's no way resisting them. We got in, and then when I sat down, I was at the back. And then again, I tried to connect and say again, where are we going? And then again, it kind of fully ignored me. And then it was the same thing, you know, when you get there. And then all of a sudden, the bus gets into the water, and that's it.
That's pretty strange, And what was he writing with? Could you see what he was writing with, or?
Writing with? No, I could say. I could see the pad, like an iPad, or just the pad. But they were making some. It seems like it felt like they were checking who we were.
It's like they're taking attendance.
Yes, taking attendance. Exactly, just like when you go on a field trip. And that was quite. I found that quite remarkable, quite interesting. And this was in 2018, 2019, I think, according to the written up there.
And that's pretty common. I think people describe that sluggish, like everything's happening in slow motion, which is what you'd get almost in a near-death experience. Did you have a near-death experience at any point?
No, not
because that's what people describe. You know, how they can, the car is flipping, and there's all sorts of time to figure and think about this and think about that, and it's like time slows right down to almost nothing, and you can watch everything that's happening and all the reactions and stuff. So it seems to be that same sort of field thing where we assume time and space are real things, and then once you get in that field, you realize it can be whatever you want. Or Chris Bledsoe, the idea where, you know, he was gone for 4 hours, and he said when he was the actual feeling, he was gone for 4 months. So it's a different world, and when you get in there.
I've been listening to some of your interviews, and you talk a lot about him, Chris Bledsoe, and his experiences are amazing. As far as I've been listening to you talking about it, and pretty much the real deal.
Well, yours are similar. He's got a very big message, because he had the encounter with what he calls the lady in light, or the shining lady, or and so that's his big thing, is that he's maintaining that this is not really aliens, this is spiritual. And so he's actually just posted Becoming divine feminine. I was just looking at it just before, but he basically just spells out what he was spelling out to me when I was with him, was this idea that the change is coming and stuff. And I guess, I don't know, you're not really getting, except from the Sasquatch or from your channeled writing. Otherwise, you're not really having this sort of, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you do have this mission where they've got a certain message they want you to get out, or they want you to put it out. It sounds more like they're trying to move you up and encourage you and help you. And what do you think?
I think I have this hunch that a lot of what I like doing is Reiki, and so probably would be through this part of the healing thing that appeals to me.
Yeah.
But obviously, if I think that if they're contacting us and if they're working with us or mentoring
Yeah.
us, there must be some sort of plan,
Yeah.
bigger plan. I don't really subscribe to some people out there who say, "Oh, I'm from Arcturus and I'm such an evolved soul and I come here because I'm going to save you all
Yeah.
because I vibrate on a much different, higher level." I think that to them is that, my friend, if you are here, you were supposed to be here, because if you did not connect vibrationally with
Yeah.
with the vibration of the planet, you'd not be here. You'd be somewhere else. So this thing of I'm special, I'm Lyrian, half Arcturian, came to save you. Bull crap.
Yeah. And they do seem to be in charge of some sort of program where it seems they're trying to help, or they're trying to do something, and they're in charge of whatever it is. And
With the
we may say, well,
Sasquatch
we don't
guy.
have any control, but still it appears they're trying to help. It's not like they're, trying to throw everybody off. When you break through in these little periods, you realize, oh, there is actually some sort of operation going on, that they're doing something.
I remember when we had a chat for the first time, when this whole thing started for me. So there was this group in Brazil, and they presented themselves, the first group that present. And I think, as I said before, as you're saying, as you moved on, you've moved along on the path or the plan,
Yeah.
or whatever, or there might be different people who come in and working with you. Now, this one is part of it's part of that one that you showed the first. So this is the dream was that I was on. This is a dock, as in a port, and
Okay.
I was looking at this city, and the city, there were these buildings, and it was interesting because it was in two different phases that I saw the same view or picture. Initially was the buildings being destroyed. So this building here on the right, which is a kind of building being destroyed by a volcano. On the right hand side, that mountain there, seems to be it felt like an active volcano. So the first stage of this was that the buildings were being destroyed, and I was on a ship. That first ship that you showed, the first image that you showed, I was on the top deck of the ship, and it looked like a cruise liner, those massive ships. And I thought it was a ship. So I was looking out the port. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, we're just going to go on a cruise, and then things start to go really bad. So it was kind of a tragic scene. So the buildings on fire, the volcano had exploded, and then I was just observing because I felt quite safe from where I was observing. And there were people trying to come onto the ship, but they were not allowed. Somehow they could not get on.
Wow.
But then on that specific scene, then it changed right after, because as you see here, there's these little buildings with the green thing, the little trees, and it says, I say the vegetation growth as if it had been after. So after the destruction of whatever and wherever that was things were moving on again. There was a reconstruction. Life was coming back on. So that's why I kind of drew those two different time frames there: the destruction and the vegetation. So I was on the ship, on the top of the ship, and again, as I said, I was assuming there was a cruise line we're going on, which I found quite odd, because it's kind of the end of the world, and how come I'm so cool going on a cruise ship? Shouldn't I be concerned? Terrified. So then the ship starts taking off. So if you want to jump onto the second and keep going right one, no, not the one. The first one you popped on. No, keep going to the right. No, go forward where you were before.
Hang on. No,
no, the other way. Go the other direction. Sorry. No, keep going. There. That one. So this is inside the ship. So basically I was in the one you showed before, the one you just showed just before was the top of the ship, the top deck. Yeah. So I was there, and then they had this glass dome. This is inside. So I was waiting, then all of a sudden I look, I had already understood what was happening on the port there with the destruction and the regeneration. Then I was sitting on the top deck, as I said, I could not see water. I could only see clouds. It felt as if it was very much overcast, or a fog down on the water. Okay. So this ship was not, I assumed that was sitting on water, but there was no water to be seen.
Yeah.
So slowly we start to move away from the port. And then if you go back one picture, there, that one. So this is the top view. You see on the top of the drawing there, you have those clouds, which initially I assumed it was water, but was not. Yeah. And then there was so you had this opaque glass dome on the top, and it was quite pointy. And I was looking at the top there, and I said, okay, so I'm on the ship, we're going somewhere else. And it was very calm despite the end of the world happening. Yeah. Then I get invited to walk down. So from the top, I walk down a set of steps, and if you can flick to the other picture where you showed before, where you have the glass dome. No, to the other side, go to the other side. That one, yeah, that one. Click that one, yeah. So this is, as I says, go one flight of stairs, and I get to the inside. So initially looked like, it was really huge. But I could see in the center. So I was looking from the top, and that's what I could see down, as if you were on inside, if you had like a little mezzanine where you could see what's happening down there. Yeah. So all of these were screens, and on the screens, there's the big screens going all around this view that I was having. Big screens going all around here, and they're showing different things. And there were people. I could see there were beings. I could feel there were beings, and I could see some of the beings. It seems that they were gray. So it looks like the bridge of Star Trek. The Enterprise, they have the bridge there. And then in the lower deck, I look in the mirror, and then there is this propulsion engine, or the generator, which was down, and had this rotating energy. I'm not sure what it was. It was never explained to me, but it was energy color, yellowish. Yeah. But it kept evolving. I'm pretty sure that was the main engine, which is not physical. Yeah, it was just energy flow, and that would move this thing forward.
Wow. Was there someone with you on the deck?
There was someone with me on the deck. I could not see him, could not see it, but it was the person that said, we're going to go down now.
Where was the person behind you?
To the left behind, so I could never see it. But they never show themselves. It didn't even say. It just pops in my mind. Go down now. Wow. And I went down, and I saw that, and then I asked, "Is this the engine?" And this person said, "Yes, it is the engine." I had a look at it, and then I went back up to the top deck again. Yeah. Then I couldn't see the town or the port anymore, and we're just flying into this into what I was assuming we were shipping away into the water, into the ocean. But it wasn't. It was just clouds, and I can feel it taking off. I felt it taking off, and I was still on the top deck, but there's no recollection of my looking back or looking behind or was on the planet. But I had the feeling that was already regenerated the planet. So there was vegetation. I'll quickly jump to another experience that I had a while back.
Oh, let me make some comments and questions about this as well. When was this dream? How long ago?
2 years ago.
2 years. I had a dream about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I was on a cruise ship, and it was the strangest dream. Is this one of these dreams where it was more real than the real world? I mean, or did it seem like a dream?
Exactly. No, it's I call it dream because I thought it was silly, but it's certainly an astral projection, or it's not a dream. Yeah. It is much more real.
Because mine was I was on a cruise ship, and it's unlike any dream I've ever had. Usually my dreams are I'm at the university, and I'm skipping class and trying to write exams, and it's just the same stupid dreams all the time. And this one was so strange. I won't get into it, but I was on a cruise ship, I sensed it was a cruise ship, and I was on the deck, and then I went to the lower deck, and I think something, I can't remember, there's something was happening, and I'm trying to get these people off. And Linda Howe was, I remember she was at a table, and there was all these people around her, and she was, chatting away, and all these people were so interested. Everybody just ignored me. They wanted to listen to her. And it was the strange, and these huge buildings along it was like on a waterway or a canal or something. I couldn't see any water. Well, the water was, we were heading towards a port, or away from the port. And these huge buildings, 5, 6 levels, but they were like, Parliament buildings, or with, with the pillars and stuff. It was the most amazing structures I've ever seen. And it was like totally like a dream. So when you talked about this, being on a cruise ship, I was the same thing. I was like, I was weird. I was on a cruise ship, and I could sense it. It was like, I just knew. And there was all these different levels, and I had dropped something from one level to another, and suddenly everybody was looking at me that I had this thing smashed on the lower level. It was just the weirdest dream. So I was fascinated with this. The other thing about
it makes sense all the time throughout it. Everything makes complete sense, doesn't it? Although it feels really weird, but it's some sort of rationality or sense behind it.
Yeah. I kept thinking to myself, like, if the mind makes this up, like, my goodness, this is like a movie. I was like, my mind has the ability every night. It makes these bizarre plots, and then you start thinking, well, maybe I'm actually somewhere where this is all being played out, because it was just the most elaborate thing. I'm thinking, well, I'm not very creative in terms of, writing scripts or stuff like that, or telling stories, but this is just wild. The other thing that was really important, I asked you about how many times have you had the person behind you that's instructing you what to do?
Quite often, in different contexts, but quite often.
Okay, so if you've seen the book on the sky pilots, that's reported quite often. And for example, the guy who was flew the F-16s for the U.S. Air Force, retired U.S. Air Force colonel, said he didn't know whether they were beings or humans, and he said they were behind him, and they were the ones that said exactly what you said, with the being on the table. He's standing there, and then they say, go ahead and do it. And he said, I don't know what to do. And they said, you know what to do, just do it. And then he goes and puts his hands on the panel, and he starts flying the craft, and that's that story. But he had these things behind him. But everybody else tells the same story. They say, I'm not sure if it was humans or it was aliens or who it was. And then the key came when you listen to all these stories, and then you're sort of like, as you get this inspiration, like the mind sort of opens up and says, oh, that's what's going on. So Jim Semivan, you're aware of Jim Semivan, the high-level CIA guy, he's equivalent general, 2-star general in intelligence. And he's telling the story, and he's being interviewed about his experience. And he reports he's standing there. I think he's he doesn't say in there, but from my recollection of the story, he's standing on the front lawn with his wife, and this craft is flying away or something. And he said, I'm standing there with my wife, and he was asked, was there any telepathy? And this is what he said, because I got it almost quoted because it was so significant. He said, well, yeah, he says, it's surprising you would mention that. Yeah, definitely. He said, I was standing there with my wife, and there was this entity behind me, and it had this guardian type thing going on about it. And as soon as he said that, I went, that's Michael Newton. And if you ever read Michael Newton, The Journey of Souls, it talks about when we die, we go in front of this panel of between 3 and 12 beings. And they ask you, how did your life work out? Because you're the one that planned it. And then the person says, oh, I forgot to do this. I was going to do that. I'll do it in my next lifetime. I was, whatever, and make excuses. And then say, I'll do better, and the soul guide stands behind them on the left-hand side. So as soon as I heard Jim Semivan said there was this entity behind me, and it had this guardian type thing going on about it, I'm going, that's his soul guide is standing behind him. And that's where I get the impression where it may be being screened, like it's all this spiritual thing. And, like when my father died, his father came. And I always tell the story is like, why did my grandfather show up when my father was dying in the hospital room? Why did he not show up as like somebody out of Rome or something in the olden days? Well, my father wouldn't know who it was. It has to be, they take on a body that's significant to you, that's going to teach you a lesson. But nobody really has a body. We all just have this energy thing, and we put on this suit or whatever to come into this life or into that life or whatever. And so I'm really happy you have this being behind you, because that seems to be another pattern that I'm starting to look. And unfortunately, I had the 36 people that had described the flying the craft, but it was only later on that I realized that people were reporting this thing with the being standing behind them and instructing them what to do. And people would always say, I didn't know who it was. It was somebody behind me, and and they would sort of, you could tell they were sort of guessing. Well, it may have been humans, may have been aliens, or whatever. But it's kind of strange that they would do stand behind you, and you're reporting the same thing. So I'm very happy to hear that you've had this experience, because it seems to be a lot more common than I thought.
And the presence is very strong. It's
Yeah.
certain that it's someone there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's human though, but I think it's guaranteed, because it tells things in your mind and tells you and suggests slash telling straight away to do things.
Yeah.
Um,
That's where Jim sent me that, because the question he was asked had nothing to do with beings or anything. He said, did you have any telepathy? Because he didn't want to really talk about his experience. So it was James Ian Dolly was interviewing him. And so I guess he's just grasping for straws. And that's when he said, well, was there any telepathy involved? And that's when he tells this bizarre story about this entity behind him, and with this telepathy thing I guess it must have been, and he said, oh yeah. And he was like, this is very significant, the same as you. He remembers this very clearly. He doesn't understand it, but he did have this feeling of, and I guess it was telepathy coming through. So he really didn't answer the question, but he sure did, especially when he said it had this guardian type thing going on about it. So it was like, and I'm thinking, and that's what I said to James Ian Dolly. I said, ask him if it's right or left hand side, because the soul guide always stands on the left hand side. And the odd time you'll have two soul guides, and one will be on each side, but it's usually behind on the left hand side. So it's kind of interesting. Okay, so where do you want to go next for this?
Anyway, you want to go? Let's do the right there.
This is so interesting.
Go there. Yeah. So that one was interesting as well. So this was a very so we started, I was driving a car, I'm assuming my car, in a very familiar suburb setup. We have here in New Zealand, houses seem to be all the same. There's 3 different types of houses, very normal. Yeah. And then I'm driving, and then all of a sudden I pull over, and because I noticed something strange in those trees. And then I stop and look, and I see it's not really, you can see there's some on the trunks there that I try to draw. It's, if you think multicolored energy, you know what abalone is?
Yeah.
Abalone shell, something like that, but not so blue. You have the kind of blues, but it's these streams of color coming down.
Yeah.
And this ship, and you can see kind of was primarily like yellow, orangish, but then as it hit the trees, it would just come down straight from the trees, and I could see it coming down, particularly when it got to the trunk, and this energy was going into the ground.
Okay.
So the ship was shooting these things, and I got scared initially, but then I realized, it was not doing any damage to the trees or anything. It was just sending energy down, and I was just mesmerized. It's really cool. So I could see it hitting the tree with the ray or with the energy, and that was exactly how the ship looked like.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of bluish, and then this energy would be coming down, going into the earth, going down, going to the earth. Then the fear went, and then straight away it changed the scene. And then if you can find that drawing of the blue flower, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, that one.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden I'm in one of the houses. I entered this house, and it was straight away directed. My attention was directed to the patio. And then I was walked out on the patio. Was like a patio, like a garden, backyard kind of thing. And the main feature was this flower, and it was this tall blue energy flower, turquoise blue, maybe 1.5 meter tall. But the main thing was, so it kind of was like a vine. These things that are coming on the side there that I drew like this, it looked like vines, the stalks. But the main feature was this flower was alive. Well, okay, all flowers are alive, but then this one was big, and you could just feel this beautiful turquoise energy emanating out of it, just pulsating. And it was a big flower, like this big, really big.
Yeah.
And it was droopy like that, and that was it. And that was the sequence to outside, was that I was taken into this house to be shown this flower. Might seem a bit simple, but the whole context was quite interesting. I will on this thing of energy. Sorry, you have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question about this. I was doing as part of my thing, I'm doing this whole thing about the evil good alien thing, and of course everybody always brings up Colares, Brazil. And I'm
Colares,
pretty
yes.
sure that when you look deep into the Colares, Brazil thing, there's a blue flower story. And this thing, I'll have to look, I'll look up it for you. I don't know if you're familiar with that. There's definitely a blue flower story in there.
I know about the Colares incident. I never looked into it really in depth.
Yeah, yeah, but, it's kind of interesting. I'll look it up and I'll send it to you. Maybe that has something to do with this, because it's the way especially the way you're describing, they're describing the same thing. It was like it stood out. It was in the trees, but this particular blue flower, and then it just got destroyed, and then it came back. I don't know. It's just really weird that these, and if it's not part of the Colares story, it's part of another major UFO story. And that's the thing. It's just this weird sort of thing that's in this story that doesn't seem to make any sense. And the same as yours, where whether the colors are meaning something or something, but maybe that's been directed so I can they want me to give you this other story, which I will look it up and I will send it to you, because I wrote it up in one of the books as to this, and it has this blue story in it. Interesting.
Definitely the flower is of major significance to that experience. Apart from seeing the energy coming down, I'm not sure if this is the type of things that will happen in the future, this type of flowers sort of stuff, but the predominance and the importance of the flower was solid in that experience, because nothing else. I walked into the house, and then I'm taken into this backyard, and the only thing that sits there is this amazing flower. So it has something to do with the whole idea of what was happening.
Wow.
There was another time when I saw the same types of energy colors coming down, but actually going up, was when I think I mentioned to you that I had in this one I was awake. I was meditating in the office, and all of a sudden I walked through this. I entered this cave, and then on the other side of the cave I come into this kind of bush forest, jungle, and I approach, and it's an inner earth city, and then I'm greeted at the door. At the entrance to the city, and I say, can I come in? And they said yes. So then I remember walking through these cobblestone, similar to the cobblestone streets. And the interesting thing is that it was like a normal city, normal city. It was like the context was daily life somewhere. And the interesting thing is that I'm all kind of, wow. And remember, I was awake. And I said, what the hell? And then I remember clearly, distinctly walking by these two beings. There was a mother and a son, or an adult and a child, and they saw me. Because usually I think on this side kind of experience, sometimes you're just observing, as if you're detached from what's happening. But this was interesting, that I made contact with them, and they looked at me, and they was saying, "Oh, a human," And then they moved on, or it felt like I was not the first one. It was not really unusual for them, or probably that they know of our existence. So then I keep walking. I remember walk through, and then the main feature now is this: in the center of this straight, a little square, there was this massive crystal fountain, which was water coming through from the earth through this massive clear quartz crystal fountain. Wow. And then I asked, then again, there was someone with me, probably this person that met me outside. And I said, what is this for? And they said, oh, the water is for healing. And we drink this water. So I said, okay. So he keeps taking me through the little tour. And then next thing is that I see some buildings, and they seem to be glass or polished crystal, transparent quartz. I think everything down there was crystal. Then we walk, and all of a sudden I feel this, I look, and it feels like it was a dome on the top of the town. And then there's this energy source, which is like a sun inside. And then I asked, is this a sun? And he said, yes, we create this. This sun exists here in this dimension. That's when the first time he said dimension. So it keeps us alive, so gives us warmth. And the sun was quite strong. Then we keep walking.
And is this a crystal city? Is this like a city of crystal? You said everything's made of crystal. Was there
Yeah,
buildings?
It looked like everything was made of crystal because every single building I walked by was transparent.
Okay.
Our version of glass buildings, yeah.
Okay, because that's the crystal city. There's a few people that have described that. In fact, the first woman that told me about flying the ship told me that was the most magnificent place she'd ever seen in the universe was the crystal city.
But the interesting thing about this is that we're walking through the streets, you know, as if, you know, someone is taking you to a tour of, I don't know, an attraction somewhere. So then, and then we go and I see this on a mountain. There are mountains down there, and then this entrance, and I get in. Then I see myself inside this building. I was inside the mountain, and that's when the energy thing that I was talking about before that I saw in this dream happened. So I walk in, and the mount. It's in a cave, sorry. I walk into this and it looks like a cave, and then I'm seeing from inside. So the floor was polished, and and there was an opening at the front, but I didn't pay much attention to that. I could see some light coming out. Probably I came in through their entrance, and then I look on the floor, and I can see there's a part that I can see through, and then it's as if you think like marble floor, yeah, but it's not. I would assume it's polished mountain floor. I don't know. Anyway, I look down and there's this massive amethyst crystal.
Wow. And
I can see it. And then I was observing, and then I see the crystal was sending this energy up through the walls of this mountain up into the earth. And it was the same energy, very similar to my drawing there about that the ship was beaming down. So I look and I can see this energy going through the walls like this, slithering through, and it's orange, all sort of colors, lots of blue, turquoise blue. And then I get in my head that it's kind of healing energy to the planet. And then I put my hand on it and I just slide into it and I go up. Just one more thing. So that was that one. Even weirder than this one. I mean, fascinating. I was walking out of the gym. I had gone for a workout at the gym. I was in the car park, was I think a weeknight, and I was there, and all of a sudden I'm taken to the same place again. Wow. And then I'm standing outside my car and I'm seeing all this stuff. So, but this time was the same place. A few more, I saw less things, but I saw something quite interesting. I saw a building, you know, those, I think everything, I think there's one in Ottawa, I think, in Vancouver. It's just these buildings, they look like needles. They go up like this, and they have a little bulge on the top.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what it looked like. So it come up like this, and there's a little thing, and it goes up a little bit. We have one here, you know. And then I was given this bottom view of this building, really tall, and then all of a sudden, at the same time, I was seeing it from the top, because on the top I could see it basically looked like a UFO on a stick. I could see that on the top there were plants. And I remember seeing again the sun shining on it. And then I said, what is it? What is this building? And I could see windows. So around, as if it were a ship with lots of windows. And then at the top, there were plants. And I said, what is it? And they said, it's a school.
Wow.
A school. And they said, yeah. And what's this thing on the top? Oh, those are gardens that we use to feed ourselves. Wow. And I think they eat plants. And then I remember looking into far away, there was a mountain. Or just like a wall, rock wall, and there was a lot of plants in it. That was interesting. The school was rather interesting, and there was something else on that dream that I cannot on that projection. But the most fascinating thing is that I was standing outside in the parking lot, just about to open my car, and all of a sudden I was there. I was in this inner city.
Wow.
In the Earth place. That was quite interesting. So I'm going to tell you another one about inner Earth. If you can find the one that is said this dude with the massive head on the pictures there. I think if you go right. We can talk about that one. We can talk about that one.
Yeah, I've only got about 3 or 4 minutes to go here, and
okay.
I've got to go.
So talk about this one, about the guy with the big head. Go to your right. No, go back. The other way. The other way. The other way. There, that one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this guy was even more interesting. So inner earth again. So this is a dream. And all of a sudden I'm down there. I don't even know where I am, but I walk into this house, and the house it had no square or square or flat walls. It was all rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see here I've written curved walls.
Yeah.
There were windows, and there's this beautiful soft glowing energy emanating from the walls. Calming and whitish yellow. And then again, and then this being comes and he's showing me his house. And he had a massive head like that.
Yeah.
Small. Usually the other beings in the city, and then I saw they had bigger. It's not like gray, massive, but slightly bigger. This fella had a really tiny black eye on the side of its face, just like a whale.
Yeah.
So this is a side view of his head. Massive protruding head, like a beluga whale.
Yeah.
White. And little mouth. Very friendly, very inquisitive, very joyful energy.
Wow.
And then the interesting thing is that I could be imagining. You always think, can I imagine this shit? And as he's showing me around the house, he blinks.
Yeah.
And the blinking was the most amazing thing. And the eyes, probably must have heard many times from many people. The black eyes is like a wet, endless, universal black, as if you just go taken away and it comes. So he looks at me, and I'm talking to him. He's showing me his house, and he blinks. So cute.
Wow.
And this quartz obelisk that I drew there was on his table. There was a table on a table in the house.
Yeah.
I saw his bed, this sort of stuff, which there I thought was quite fascinating to see that there was a totally different type of creature of being to the other city. So I'm assuming there must be many down there.
Wow. So you're just fascinating as stories. Let me ask you, last question is, do you record all your dreams, and do you try to manage your dreams? Because I was doing the thing where I was recording dreams, but they were just so stupid that I'd drink lots of water. Then you'd have to get up and go to the bathroom about every hour, and you could go back to sleep quite quickly. But I was recording like 7 dreams a night. Do you do any sort of cataloging of your dreams?
Yeah. All of these I've written them down, and I've drew some, and also because these I've done them on A3 paper. I've written some text on behind of some of them, not as much as I think as I should, because there have been some really crazy ones. Not as this one is not crazy, but I should be doing more. I try to, even if I don't write down as soon as I wake up, I write down keywords and I try to remember after. But some of them stuck with me forever. This one and the other one that I'm down in the center, the one that I mentioned to you last time with the reptilians, that I went down this cave and I come into this Mayan city, and these reptilians come out and they give me this pendant with a golden crystal that shines, all this sort of stuff.
Wow. Absolutely fascinating. Give for people that are going to be watching this, your website, and you interview every week, right? You interview someone.
No, I haven't been doing. I had some break. I've got some lined up, and I'm trying to organize, work and everything else. So as soon as I've been posting a few things on accelerating change on Facebook.
Okay.
A few things about quantum physics. I've just posted some. I think his name is John Hagelin. He's talks about consciousness, but I haven't posted any interviews. I'm a bit low in interviews. I'm just kind of piling them up. So when I start posting them, I always have some backlog of them, so I can post and then interview later. Yeah,
I've got a backlog too. I mean, if my assistant's not here, so he gets backlogged. And so let's have another conversation. Maybe even next week. I think I'm free next week. We can have a little chat. And you're still open for the Winnipeg group if you sometime when you're because they especially if they hear you've got the Crystal City type thing with the buildings. The guy that runs the group, this is the most fascinating thing. He wants to know about that kind of stuff because he's heard about it from quite a few people. So I'll put you on their list, and some month you'll be available, and they'd love to talk to you.
I'll send you a few more drawings of a few of the things I was looking for them, but I couldn't find. I have a few more interesting drawings. One that I go into a pool and I'm underwater, and there's this dude looking at me going on a what do you call those things? Escalators. you know,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
a flat
escalator.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I go down this cave, and get into this room. In the feature, it's all marble, and this beautiful water. It's a pool, turquoise lit water.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
go in, and I go into the other side, and I see this chap looking at me, looking at him. But I'll see if I can find it, or
Yeah.
otherwise I'll withdraw it. I'll send it to you, and then you can catch up maybe in a couple of weeks.
Okay. That sounds
All right, my
great.
friend.
Thanks again. Sorry we couldn't go longer tonight, but there's
All right, it
other
was my
meetings
bad.
come up. But
All right.
I will put you on that list, and you can sort of follow and see. They may start posting some of these photos that they've done, and you may be pretty interested. Plus the orb thing, it's an interesting conversation. There's a lot of photos get posted there. So, and there's
Great.
Bob McGuire, the big scientist, is there. He and his partner are now heavily into this. So I'll keep you in touch, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time, Grant. Have a good
Beautiful.
night.
It's always
Cheers, my friend.
always a pleasure to talk to you.
Always a pleasure. Cheers.
Okay. Good night. Good afternoon, I guess.
Indeed. Cheers.
Okay. Talk to you later.